In second grade, you learned about the three states of matter: solids, liquids, and gases. In this next unit that we are going to start, you're going to learn how those second grade standards can be applied and expanded on in our fourth grade standards in learning about the water cycle. Now, the water cycle doesn't have a beginning and it doesn't have an end. You can start anywhere you'd like in the water cycle, but it does have a certain order to the stages in which the water flows within the water cycle. What I want to do with you today is I'm going to draw the water cycle on this whiteboard as I am talking about these different stages. And I'm also going to talk about three more vocabulary words: precipitation, condensation, and evaporation. These are really important vocabulary words as we are learning about the water cycle. Now, as I said before, you can start anywhere you'd like in the water cycle, but what I want to do is I want to start with the main source of the water cycle, which is the sun. Now, the sun is important because it is going to heat the water up down below. Now, I know that we've all experienced rainstorms in the past, and if you go outside after the rainstorm has passed, you may be able to see different puddles of water everywhere. And within a couple of hours, or maybe even the next day, if you go outside, those rain puddles are gone. Well, the rain puddles are gone because the sun heated up that water that was in the puddle, and it did something called evaporate. So this is called evaporation. In this word evaporation, you can see the word vapor. That is important because evaporation is changing a liquid to a gas. And the gas that it is changing it into is called vapor. It's called vapor. So what happens is the water turns into a gas called vapor, and the vapor rises up into the Earth's atmosphere, and the higher it gets, the cooler it gets, and it starts to condense, and then we have our next vocabulary word, condensation. Now, on this paper here for our word, I have a cloud that's drawn, and I also have a cup of water, or a drink of some sort. And the reason why I did that is because maybe condensation would be easier for you to understand with this one, because we've all had that nice cup of drink that it's cold, and after a while it starts to get kind of wet on the outside. Well, that's because the gas in the air, as it starts to hit this cup that's cold, it condenses the gas and turns it into a liquid again. So that's why I have that here, because this is also condensation. But this is also condensation too, as a cloud. Another form of condensation is, have you ever been in the bathroom and you're taking a shower and you get out of the shower and the mirror is all foggy and you can almost write in it? That's another form of condensation. Or here's another one. If you're in the car and you blow onto the window and it kind of gets all misty on there, and then you can write in there and it's wet. Okay, well, that's condensation as well. So all of these different things are condensation. In the water cycle, condensation is going to be a cloud. Now, you might think to yourself, or at least I have, if the liquid is clear, why do the clouds seem gray, white, orange, purple, pink? Why are the clouds all these different colors? Keep those questions in mind, because we are actually going to learn about that later on in another lesson. So I want you to be thinking about it, and I want you to be questioning it, because we are going to talk about it later. Those are really good questions to keep in mind. But right now, we're just going to think about this cloud here. Now, after condensation, the water that is accumulating in there is getting bigger and bigger, and soon is going to start falling back to the ground. This is what's called precipitation. And we have 4 types of precipitation. We have rain, snow, sleet, and hail. Now, the most questions that I get about these 4 is going to be about sleet. And if you look closely, I've kind of drawn a little bit of snow and a little bit of raindrops. Well, sleet is kind of like frozen ice and rain kind of mixed in together. So that's what sleet is. Rain, we've all experienced rain, and some of us have been able to be here when it has snowed and been able to kind of go out there and play in the snow a little bit. And hail is big chunks of ice. We actually, just a few days ago, had a hailstorm in Hinesville. So if you were able to look outside, maybe you saw some of those, and they just drop down like just balls, and they can get pretty big sometimes. So we have precipitation, so it falls back down to the earth. And what happens as it's falling down to the earth is there's a couple of things that can happen to this precipitation. It can become groundwater, and then we're going to talk about those things later on in further lessons in this. But for right now, we're going to talk about how it just falls back down to the earth, and eventually it's going to make its way back through the water cycle as it being evaporated into the air again. So this is our water cycle, and I hope you've learned something here today.